Hey, if you want to skip the preamble, go to this timecode. I haven't uploaded in a while, and the reason is that I'm working on a video about AI. As you can probably tell, I've upped my production values a bit. It started out being half technical and half philosophical, but I've ended up dropping the technical aspects in favour of a more creative work. I've rewritten the script 5 times because I really want to get at something deeper, and that's difficult. I've thrown out hundreds of takes due to camera issues or the noise of living near a train station. A lot of people have created videos about AI, but I find that they either think AI is going to take over the world, or that it's all going to come crashing down very soon. I agree with the people who are saying LLMs are a poor replacement for real programmers or artists or voice actors, but I don't think that's the real problem. The real problem is people. The question of whether an AI can create real art is important, but we're already seeing companies use them to replace people regardless. Anyway, before I get too philosophical, I wanted to share something practical. If you've been following the channel, you'll know that I went through a very tough job search. I've got 12 years of experience, and I applied for about 400 jobs, but only got 5 or 6 interviews. I'm finally starting a new job on Monday. I won't share any details because honestly I'm not sure what I can share, but it's with a FANG company. I made a video a while ago about culture shifts in startups, and some of you shared that you work for larger companies and you actually have work-life balance, so thank you for that. At one point I had an interview where the CTO said they absolutely loved my CV and the fact that I didn't waste their time telling them I worked with Python for one module in college or that I knew how to use GitHub. And it got me thinking, the hiring manager loves my CV, but it's not getting through the screening process with a lot of companies. I've used a Google Docs template for years now, but I realized that it had 2 big problems. The old wisdom with CVs is to keep them to 2 pages max, 1 if you can. And so I took out all the obvious skills and information to keep it short. I assumed that if I said I worked with React for 6 years, someone would know I've worked with JavaScript for that amount of time. I felt like it was unnecessary to say I could use Visual Studio or GitHub, because every developer can do those things. I focused on the things that differentiated me from other developers, and this is exactly what that CTO wanted to see. But recruiters don't usually understand programming. They just match a set of keywords to a job description. And if the spec says that I need experience with agile teams and that's not on my CV, they throw it out. And with AI-based filtering on the rise, that only gets worse. A person can understand from the way I describe myself that I'm an excellent communicator, but an AI expects me to say that. And so for a recruiter, and especially for an AI, it's better to have a very long CV with an exhaustive list of everything you've ever done. The second problem is making that work for the hiring manager. They do understand the field. They see a lot of CVs, but they only remember a few. And they don't want to read your life story. My old boss is a really great guy and a good friend. He's one of my biggest supporters, so he's probably watching this video right now. He would always comment on interesting CVs, ones that stood out from the crowd. They might have an interesting way of presenting their skills, or a bit of visual flair. And I want to work with people like him, so I built my CV to reflect that. I created it in Figma, and I used it as a way to show my problem-solving skills. I made it much more visual, and included some aspects of my personal philosophy. I even included a link to this YouTube channel. I've seen a lot of people include ratings for their skills, but I point out that this is subjective, so I came up with a new way to show my skills based on how often I use them. One of my core skills is creating design systems, so I literally created Figma components for my CV. This is what I want the hiring manager to read, and so it's the first page of my CV. The second page deals with the other problem, while talking about how I decided to solve it. It's essentially SEO for LLMs, and a reference for recruiters. It's a solution for the filtering process, but it's presented in a way that shows my ability to solve problems, and includes a bit of my personality for good measure. It includes a description of the problem, the solution to that problem, and a bit of fun. You might think this seems unprofessional, but I don't want to work for people who think professionalism is important. I want it to be something people remember, so that I stick out in their mind, so I'm not just another name on a list. If you're planning to do this, by the way, there is one caveat. You need to make sure that it exports the PDF as text, not as paths, but I'm sure you can figure that out. We often obsess over languages and frameworks, arguing about linting and which language makes you a real programmer. But as Rich Hickey once said, programming is not about itself. It's an engineering discipline, the application of technical expertise to problem solving. We work with abstractions, systems, and solutions. We're not defined by the number of lines of code we write, but by the problems that we solve. Anyway, I hope this helps some of you, whether it's directly with writing your CV or more generally with feeling you can solve problems. I'll leave you with a quick preview of the video that I'm working on at the moment and a bit of fun. Thanks, and have a good one. Did you know that the first matrix It was designed to be a perfect human world, where none suffered, where everyone would be happy. It was a disaster. No one would accept the program. Entire crops were lost. Some believe that we lack the programming language to describe your perfect world, but I believe that as a species, human beings define their reality through misery and suffering. A perfect world was a dream that your primitive cerebrum kept trying to wake up from. Which is why the Matrix was redesigned to this. The peak of your civilization. I say your civilization because as soon as we started thinking for you, it really became our civilization. Which is, of course, what this is all about. Evolution, Morpheus. Evolution.